Okay, everybody, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So before we get started, we have an amendment to the agenda.
Yeah, we'd like to add the PERS discussion to new business, which there is no other new business, so I think that would go after old business and right before staff reports. I believe.
Director Russell. Here. Director Murphy.
Here.
Director Yesney.
Here.
Director Webb.
Here.
Director Farnsworth.
Here.
Director Polisi.
Here.
Director Spade.
Here.
Director Hickson.
Here.
Director Green.
Here.
And Director Burks.
Yep.
Always an honor. Did you want to open this up for public comment? Yeah, we can stick with that. If there's anyone here who would like to speak? Okay, seeing as there's no public comment, we'll move on to, everyone have a chance to read the minutes.
Yep, on behalf of Sykesville Light Fire, I make a motion to approve the minutes from the July 17th meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, the minutes are approved.
Okay, first item, Western Lane Ambulance District. We have the minutes from the same night, July 17th. Everybody get a chance to look at the minutes. We have a motion for approval or any comments?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further comments on the minutes? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Director Russell. Yes. Director Murphy.
Yes.
Director Yesney.
Yes.
Director Webb.
Yes.
Director Farnsworth.
Yes.
Okay, I guess we'll move on to the monthly financials.
And Dina is off tonight. She's enjoying a nice anniversary dinner with her husband, but you have the financials. I'll be willing to answer any questions, or at least refer those to Dina.
Did anybody have any questions about the financials?
All I would say is I appreciate the consistency of our financial presentation. It's great to see what we're producing, so thank you very much.
I will pass that on, but yeah, it's much easier to follow.
And yesterday I did come in and go over the financials with Dina and the chief. They took me through them on my responsibilities as secretary and treasurer. They were very clean. Very, very simple to read. So thank you, chief.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Director Russell did Western Lane.
Yeah.
Any questions for Western Lane on the financials?
Transactions fall within financials.
Yes, we'll ask for approval. You want to go ahead?
Well, I would just had a question on the transactions. There's two transfers. There's one for $150,000, one for $200,000, but there's no documentation to say what the transfers were for. I assume it's moving money from money market to general fund, but it might be nice just to. I have never seen transfers on the transaction list before like that. So if we have them, it might be nice to have a notation. Budgeted transfer, something like that.
Yeah, there's actually three. There's one for 150, one for 50, and another one for 200.
Cindy, did we talk about that today? I remember we noticed it, but I think that's all we did.
One of the larger checks was for insurance, and the others were budgetary.
It was those transfers. Yeah.
I assume those transfers were just money market to check.
Yeah, I'm sure that was,
but
yeah, a description.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a description.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, this will be a direct rate financing, so yeah, we have to make transfers, but yeah, we can do that.
Okay, do we, any other comments on the financial statements?
Did Kathy visit this month? No.
She did with, we talked about light fund.
Okay, fine.
Matt, did you get a final number on the GEMT? It's,
No, still pending. We actually had the state request more documentation, so working with PCG, we'll have the documentation submitted within 5 business days according to our consultant.
and do you remember what the amount that we originally filed? Was it?
So originally what we were seeing was around 70,000, but it's preliminary number that we were seeing was more around the 30 or 40,000 number. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. So that's not in the financials yet. We'll just do that on a cash basis when we get it. We're not going to accrue a receivable or anything like that.
That's correct.
Just in the month of July, it looked like we had a very large billing. It's a very busy month.
So that's historical number of business.
Looks like the top billing month of the year for.
July and August historically are our 2 busiest months.
Okay, if there are no other questions, would anybody have any other questions on the transaction list? And if not, could we have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve the financials for the month of July and the transaction list as well.
Second. Okay, the first, second, any further discussion on the financials of the transaction list? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Director Russell?
Yes.
Director Murphy?
Yes.
Director Gasney?
Yes.
Director Webb?
Yes.
Director Farnsworth?
Yes.
Now, do you need to?
Yeah, we're going to ratify. I just had a question. I'm assuming on the property tax in County, Douglas County, the budget is year-to-date and the other is, or for the year budget, and the other is year-to-date. Is that that's why it's so much smaller in the actual compared to the budget?
Yeah, that's the first
First one
one.
we've received so far is what we expect to get for the year.
Yeah, a tax payment doesn't come in until November-ish, so.
It's for the entire. Everyone else had a chance to look through the financials? Any
Yes.
questions?
No.
I get a motion to ratify the bills?
Make a motion that we ratify the bills for July 2019.
Okay, got a second from Sue. All right, can I get a roll call vote on that?
Director Polisi?
Yes.
Director Spade?
Yes.
Director Hickson?
Yes.
Director Green?
Yes.
Director Burns?
Yes.
Okay. Bills are ratified for July.
Chief, is this where we would put in the new business before the old business and the ordinance, or?
It's up to boards.
I had it after old business,
Okay.
SVFR and West Coast ambulance, but before old business.
Before the staff reports?
Yeah.
Okay. All righty.
Open a public hearing for ordinance 2019-01 and ordinance 2019-03. Are there any comments from the public regarding those ordinances? Seeing as there are no public members of the public present, we will close the hearing. Do you need to do that in conjunction or?
I think we can do it together.
Okay.
Yeah, it's both ordinances, we read it, so that's perfect.
So I think I can read the ordinance title.
Okay.
An ordinance adopting an intergovernmental agreement and creating a new intergovernmental agency, the Western Lane Fire and EMS Authority. And that'll be ordinance number 2019-01 for Siuslaw Valley and ordinance number 2019-01 for Western Lane EMS District. And we'll forego reading the entire ordinance since copies are available.
So just, it's probably a minutia, but is that open to public hearing? Should that, both of those been 2019-01 for the public hearing?
That's correct. We have another ordinance after this one.
Okay.
Which is not related to this.
But that was open to public discussion, which is no public.
Chief, do you want to lead us through anything that is there?
We had a couple of modifications from last time, but they're nothing significant. Those changes have been made. I think it was mainly in the title. So nothing's changed.
Remember, did we have a change related to required vote, table 3? Did we change that?
We did. I think we changed that beforehand.
Okay.
That was before the first reading. We just made it clear.
Yeah, so there's a majority from each board, not a majority of the 10.
Right.
And that was in the first reading?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'd make a motion to approve the second reading of the Adams Sites of Valley Fire Ordinance 2019-01.
Need a second?
Second.
All right, so from Sites Valley Fire, the ordinance 2019-01 passed. I'd like to get a roll call vote on that.
Okay. Director Polisi?
Yes.
Director Spade?
Yes.
Director Hickson?
Yes?
Director Green?
Indeed.
And Director Burns?
Yep. I'd like to make a motion to approve the second reading of Western Lane Ambulance District Ordinance 2019-01.
I'll make a second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Is there any discussion related to the ordinance before we vote? Any further discussion? All right, hearing
Director
none.
Russell?
Yes.
Director Murphy?
Yes.
Director Yasny?
Yes.
Director Webb?
Yes.
Director Farnsworth?
Yes.
Very good.
Tell you what, we got this down. We're working together.
All right.
And the new business after that.
Oh, okay.
We have
still some
Oh,
more.
the other 20-.
There's three, one more ordinance. This is Suicide Valley Fire Rescue Ordinance 2019-03, an ordinance adopting a private driveway standard. And this is the second reading.
Any discussion on that? I think we.
Can I ask a question? Will this be transmitted to the building department, the planning department of the city of Florence, or any other areas within our
They've
service?
been involved. This is countywide. It's not just-
Very good. Thank you.
If I remember right, this is grandfathered in terms of that this is moving forward.
Yes.
Any new homes?
Yes.
New development.
Yeah.
Any other discussion on that? And this is for SVFR only.
I'll make a motion to approve the second reading of the Sites of Valley Fire Rescue Ordinance 2019-03.
Second.
Get a roll call vote?
Director Polisi?
Yes.
Director Spade?
Yes.
Director Hickson?
Yes.
Director Green?
Yes.
Director Burns?
Yep.
Ordinance 2019-03 is adopted.
So we'll switch to the new business, I think.
Correct. Yeah. So the state is opening up their program where they have matching funds available to agencies that want to put extra funding aside for the unfunded liability incurred. These are called, it's called the side account, and there may be individuals here that know more about it than I do, but from what I understand, this side account is money that a district or agency will send to the state. You don't get this money back, but it is only to be used for your district, and it pays down your unfunded liability. Currently, Sinussa Valley, the unfunded liability is $1.8 million, and it's $2.8 million for Western Lane. So this, there's a 25% matching. There's two entry periods. The first entry period is for those districts or agencies that their unfunded liability is twice their payroll. SVFR qualifies for that. Western Lane does not, even though Western Lane has a higher unfunded liability. So September 3rd, Sinussa Valley can apply for matching funds. Western Lane has to wait until December 2nd. Where that's important is that there's limited funds. Once the funds run out, it's done. The matching program is done. They do anticipate further funding down the road. It says that legislature has approved additional funding. Don't know when that will be available. And then the sports betting, which now makes sense, that's supposed to be used for additional matching funds down the road.
If the match is overstated or their projections are incorrect, there's no way for us to get those funds back? Do they defer future PERS expense or?
It does lower your PERS rate. Is that part of your question?
Well, I just wondered in essence, are we better off putting it in that fund? For the match fund, it makes sense. I also read something that we couldn't borrow.
Yeah, you have to verify that it was not borrowed.
Okay.
So as I understand it, they won't accept the money into the PERS side account unless they have the match to put with it. So you're filling out an application, right, to participate? And then,
Now, it's my understanding you can have a side account.
yes, I agree. So my point is you can have a side account. The side account we're talking about is the one with the 25% match. So I think what Mike is asking, I'm not sure, but if we put the money into an account and then they don't have the 25% to match.
No, I'm thinking more of, but that's a good point.
Yeah.
But I was thinking more of if they've overestimated the amount of reliability, investments come in higher than expected. Is the money stuck at PERS?
I'd have to ask that. I would assume that we would have a much lower PERS payment down the road.
That's logically, but I would
Yes.
like to find out if that's the
I think
case.
the opposite.
Certainly can ask about that. And that is a good thing about having that side account. It does lower your rate, which is take account your unfunded liability.
Another way of looking at it is it's a buffer against the increases we're about to see, which are pretty dramatic. And you say it's like 5% coming up?
5.4%.
Yeah.
And that, I believe that you can put money into a side account at any time.
Yes, but you don't get the match.
You know, the matches, yeah, there's limited times. You have to specify how much you're putting in to get the match. There's a maximum for districts our size. It's you can put a maximum of 1.2 million in or a $300,000 match. And then once the money runs out, then the matches are over.
And then Mike, I think, had brought up before, refresh my memory, that if there was not a match, we could decide to have our own side account, still under our control, still in our name, that we would use internally to buffer our PERS increases.
But that would lower your PERS rate. Would be
Right, it won't lower the rate, but
Right.
we
But
could.
you could do that, absolutely. You
It could be an internal buffer.
And that's where, where you hesitate when, you give them money and you don't get it back.
Yeah.
But it's for your use.
And the way it was explained to me, your side account does not reduce your unfunded liability. All it does is keep your rate from going up.
Well, up as fast.
Uh-huh.
It's still gonna go up.
Right, but it doesn't reduce your unfunded
No.
liability.
And that's the part I didn't understand about it, but I read that as well. It said you can't use it to pay down your unfunded liability. But isn't that what it's for?
What's it for?
Just,
So does the account sit and then your
Second
current
insurance.
payments, does part of it, I mean, it just comes out? How does this account get used? That was a question I had too, is does it sit there and pay out towards your unfunded liability as it comes due over time and over a long period of time? Or how does it get invested?
It's in their normal account where they invest.
So is that match PERS pretty much then?
I believe so.
Okay, well, that would be.
These are great questions.
they're using that money to pay their retirement fund.
Yeah.
One thing is true, time is of the essence, because this window will be very narrow. Because I think the money will disappear, the matching
Will
fund.
there even be any of that?
I think we can, we don't have to pay it September 3rd. We just have to indicate that we would like to, for December 2nd for Western Lane.
Are we guaranteed if we make that intent known, are we guaranteed that the match will be there if we place the money in that account?
It's first come, first served.
But so if there's no more match available, or let's say we put $1 million in that account come October 30th, but they run out of match funds, is our $1 million trapped? Will they guarantee at the time we're making that payment that that match is there?
I believe so, I have to verify that.
I think that's how they designed it, because as you indicated, it's kind of an application process, first come, first served, and then they will award that prerogative, okay? You said you wanted to be in for $1 million, you won that slot, we have the funding, you give us your million, we put 300,000.
Yeah, if agencies declined to pay their contribution, then there would be additional funds for whoever was last on it.
We're just doing an application to get in line, I guess.
But besides the valley's got the deadline, the first deadline, right?
Yeah, it's saying it's
Correct.
it's due before we do.
So what's the window?
So we could watch and see what happens.
September 3rd for Sosa Valley, and then December 2nd for Western.
But do they have to apply by September 3rd, or?
That's when it opens.
And then how long will they have it open?
It's open until the 1 year runs out.
Okay, so it stays.
So who's going to be poised at the keyboard?
I'll be on vacation, so we're gonna
Like getting first tickets.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So they have this window starting September 2nd for fire, September 3rd for us.
No, December.
December 3rd. Okay, so if there's anything left after September
Yeah.
3rd, maybe in December they'll find some.
It looks like it's split about half and half.
Really?
And I do have a list of the agencies that are in the first pool and those in the second.
Okay.
So I just wondered, you said, so there's, while the funds last, right? Is there, so do we have to make sort of our intention how much we plan to put in this?
Yes.
Okay, so it's from the very beginning, let's say we're committed to, $500,000. And is that something we have to put in all at one time, maybe over a period of months?
It's all at the same time.
I think it's all
So it's a
signed.
lump sum, and then we 25% of that.
And then when you pay that money, that factors into at what point your PERS rate would decrease.
Right.
And they have a spreadsheet, you can calculate what your new rate was going to be. For like a $500,000 payment, your rate drops about 2.5%, 3%.
We're expecting to go 5.4.
That is, yeah, that's the next billing period.
So if you look on this sheet here, if you look, I think, Chief, you've put the statistics on your projected contribution rates. They start at 19%, go to 24, then 29, then 30.
Yeah, then it levels out.
Eventually, well, it gets up to 50 eventually. Once you get out to 2029, that's when we hit the brick wall.
50%.
That's what it says, 49%, 50%. That's for police and fire.
Oh, yeah, that is, yeah, I think that's the legislator just pushing.
That's right, they pushed it out, they said, let's advertise that further in the future.
You know, I hadn't looked at that part, but yeah, you're absolutely right. It does say 50%.
Was there any indication if the fire department's ready on September 2nd and we're ready on December 3rd? If we're submitted that day, when we know when we're approved and where we are in line, did they give us any indication of a timeline?
Not that I can see.
So are you looking for direction from each board as to how much you want to put?
Since it's, yeah, well, definitely from Central Valley, since it's September 2nd or September 3rd. Again, we can get ourselves in line, we're not committed to that.
We absolutely need to get in line. I think we need at least to have some analysis from you if we're going to, the funding is going to come from our capital reserve budget, and are we willing to essentially reallocate that, and how much in year one?
In my budget forecast, I've been pretty much routinely putting $150,000 a year into unfunded liability for both agencies. Again, that can be changed or added to or subtracted from.
Yeah.
But yeah, Western Lane does have $150,000 budgeted for, or set aside for unfunded liability for next year. We did do that for SVFR.
And Chief, I haven't looked at the spreadsheet very closely, but if we make this contribution, get the match, and reduces our PERS increases, is there a way to do a comparison analysis as to, well, if we make this contribution, here's the rate, if we don't, to kind of understand what the net present value of that cash flow is?
Yeah, it's about a 10-year payback. Or if you did one time, 150,000, you would probably save that in about 10 years. Yeah, 8 to 10 years. Which is not a bad return.
No.
Yeah.
Also, I think, unless there's any further discussion, I think getting in line is the first step, but we do need to take a look at how much is that going to be? Is that going to affect our direct period financing? Are we going to be okay with, other upcoming costs? And just take and analyze how much that's going to be and what we can do.
Yeah, once we have indicated our intention to do this, from what I can tell, the payment's not required until August of 2020.
But do you have to tell them on the second how much you're gonna put in?
Yes.
Yeah, so you guys have to come up with a ballpark number.
Yeah, I think that's where we need to kind of go back and look at the budget and hear from you as to.
My recommendation is 150,000.
But that's already budgeted, right? That was just-
Yeah, that's in my forecast. It was not budgeted. But with resetting the levy, putting funds towards personnel services, towards capital, it would essentially come out of our capital, which we put a lot of funding into capital this year because we had budgeted to reset levy funds. Or we could go higher.
Well, I'm wondering, to get a 25% match on $150,000, is that the best use of our money?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess any match is great, so to speak, but
37,500 on yeah.
It's a pretty good rate of return.
yeah.
Plus your decrease in your rate,
Right.
when you put those two things together, seems like it makes it a bigger deal.
You were saying that if we did, say we did 500,000, it would be between 2 and 3% in terms of our rate reduction.
I think it was 150,000.
Oh, with 150, okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's about 1.42% per 150,000.
Okay.
So you get a 2.8% decrease with 300,000.
Said another way, this is money we owe the state, and we're gonna have to pay this one way or another, sooner or later. So what we're trying to do is minimize the pain of doing so.
And if we can get them to pitch in $25,000 without coming out of our pocket, that's kind of a no-brainer.
Well, I guess I'm just wondering if there's any room for us to review with the change in the levy rate, tax rate, I should say, to review our capital budget as far as the reserve, and is there more than $150,000 available we can consider?
Yeah, my plan going forward would be to dedicate $250,000 a year to capital.
Right.
So, and we put in $600,000 this budget cycle, so that those funds could be used.
But at this point, you're recommending 150.
I'm just being very cautious.
For good reason.
Yeah.
I believe for Sosa Valley, you could go higher and could afford it. Western Lane, that's a little bit different story.
Well, I don't want to see the board necessarily, dictate to management to do this amount, but it seems like maybe if there's time to do some brief analysis on that reserve, could we consider a little more than 150?
Okay.
Whatever we can do to the point that doesn't affect operations or those sorts of things.
I would say that 300,000 would be doable.
Is there, whether, can we distribute any of this information outside of the board meeting? I guess to look at, it is $300,000. What does that do exactly to the capital, the budgeted capital reserve contribution? You said we were going to put in $600,000.
That's what we did this year.
Yeah.
Just because when we reset the levy, we had those extra funds.
Right.
Going forward, it'd be, with at my budget forecast, and I can show that close to you. It was at 250,000 a year.
Okay.
I don't know that we would do additional funding into the side account. You certainly could.
So 300,000 would still leave us the $300,000 contribution this current fiscal year.
300,000 contribution to
To
capital contribution, yes.
Yeah. Well, that's more than we've had.
At what date is payment due?
By August 2020.
So over the next fiscal year.
Yeah.
The earlier, there's dates that you have to do it if you want to see a decrease in your rates.
Well, there's also a question and answer in here. If a district is committed and ends up not being able to perform, they withdraw and somebody else on a waiting list steps up.
Correct.
So you could commit 300,000 with board direction to the chief, you could apply it, and then as the year goes on, next August, if that's the funding date, if you find yourselves unable to do it, you've lost nothing, somebody else gets your slot.
Right. That's the way I understand it.
But you're not gonna get a second bite out of the apple after, and this is 10 days away, right?
And if you commit 300 or suggest that now and say next August, well, we'd like to do 150 instead, they're not going to accept that.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that one.
I would think, I don't know, I can't say for sure, I would think they would.
Yeah.
And just have an additional 150.
Well, then I think then at this point, applying and suggesting $300,000 doesn't harm us, because if we feel like we can't fulfill that, which hopefully we can, we cut it back.
And I'll make sure Dina runs some calculations as well, but
Okay.
from my forecast, I think that's doable.
I mean, it gives us almost a year to figure out exactly how much we can follow up that 300,000 that we need to invest in.
And we'll drop our rate quite a bit.
Yeah. Let's apply, or I suggest we apply and consider that amount, and run the additional forecast, and then we'll see.
Perfect.
Any other discussion on that? No.
So Chief, we don't have to decide until December, or apply December 3rd, is the earliest.
That's correct.
And I know in the past, we've talked about this in the past, didn't know how the program is going to roll out. And would it be possible, I know we talked about getting a speaker here before, maybe with yourself, to do a Q&A and walk through the mechanics? And,
Absolutely, I'm sure they'd love that.
yeah, I wonder, I know it's going to be too late for, you guys are going to have applied already, but I think that would really be in order if we could line up somebody and have a full presentation.
Yes.
And they will likely have they had at the last Seaside SDAO conference, they had a PERS director there. And I think they did have some PERS presentation at the last one. So I would anticipate that if we can't get somebody here, there would be a PERS presentation in February. So that would be helpful.
Yeah, sorry for the late notice, but we just found out on, was it Monday? Yeah. that they
Yeah,
were doing this.
we need somebody, we can get somebody before December, it'd be great.
Do you need resolutions from either board to move forward with this since it's in 10 days?
We will need to actually move the money, we will need a resolution, but I think just approval to move forward and get our slot applied.
This is not a legal commitment when we apply, we can withdraw, so.
Yeah, it's until we actually move money around.
Yes,
Let's make a soft commitment to that amount, apply, and then we can resolve to approve that.
correct.
Any other questions, comments? It's hard to turn down a 25% return.
Great. All right, staff reports.
Are you gonna approve the 300, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'll make that motion that we instruct the chief to apply to the matching fund for $300,000 commitment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Okay, just one of the Western Lane know that we have a new attorney. Jeff Matthews is retired. I don't know if you ever met Jeff. Been working, I just found out, I emailed him a question and some of his associates responded back that he had retired. So I don't know that we're going to have one person dedicated to the ambulance district, but I know it's not going to be Jeff.
Who does fire use?
Christy Monson, Labor Law Group, I think they're called.
I don't know if that would be worth considering or going out for bid.
Good.
Open up RFPs and see.
I attended Matt and I attended the Mapleton board meeting 2 weeks ago, last week, 2 weeks ago. Their board president said he was going to be here tonight, so I'm disappointed he wasn't here. We had a good meeting, talked, they had some good questions, and I got to talk some things through. Like I said in one of my weekly reports, they wondered when we were going to staff an ambulance there in Mapleton, Swiss Home area. And they're less than 5% of our calls, and we don't have a lot of tax revenue coming in that area. So essentially, I said it's not going to happen in the near future. But one thing Matt and I have been talking about is could we put a fly car? And what a fly car is, it's an SUV with medical equipment, and we have a lot of our Western Lane employees, or a few employees live up there in that area. And when they're not working here, would they be willing to grab that vehicle and respond? And we couldn't mandate it. I mean, if they're on their days off, we would certainly have to pay them. If they did, be a much quicker paramedic response for them there. So it's something that we're thinking about. We haven't made any commitments to that. I've been talking to the employees, would they be willing to do that? And they said, yeah, they'd be willing to consider it. So it would help Mapleton and certainly decrease response times up there. But, so we're thinking along those lines. Try and help them out. They also they asked questions about the SAFER grant. And the issues with the SAFER grant are new to me, but I'm trying to resolve those. And I think it's more of a he said type of a deal. So I don't know that we're really going to be able to make Mapleton happy with the SAFER grant. And there are just some issues about what they were promised and what the grant is actually for. And I also talked about the new fire authority and how it really doesn't want to affect them in any way. They may see that name out there is all. And I did want to, I'm not sure if this is going to be a joint board decision or just SVFR, but if we could start moving forward with replacing the Durango. It wouldn't actually be replacing the Durango, it would keep the Durango in the system. We'd probably get rid of the Crown Vic, or I think there's a Ford Explorer that is on its last legs. We've looked very closely at the vehicle almost identical to what Chief House is getting, the Ford Interceptor, which is based on the Explorer, Ford Explorer. Actually, it's a little cheaper than the one that Chief House ordered. I'm not sure how that worked, but we know people, I guess. But, we still have funds in capital, even though we're moving some there. It would be several months. It'd be probably 4 to 6 months of lead time on something like this. It'll be through our local Ford dealer. It gives us an exceptional deal. Radios would come from other vehicles that we would like to surplus, like the Crown Vic, lighting, things like that. But,
Is it going to come from Ford all pre-wired for the LED lighting and all that?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So it makes it very, and then we have a local company do that, install the lights.
Perfect.
So this will be after we have the authority. This will be after our employee of the authority. Matt's vehicle is being paid for 100% by Western Lane. Didn't know if this would, and the authority's not going to have any capital at first. I don't know if this would be the first capital item. It doesn't have to be. It can remain with the fire department. But just wanted to get some feedback. See if the board would support that. If not, that's fine.
What is the year and mileage of the Durango, President?
It is a 2009, 160,000 miles.
And any estimate of what we've spent in maintenance costs in the last 12 months or 24 months on that? Or repairs?
I do, it does need new tires, so that'd be coming up. Yeah, I don't know, I'd have to check for that. To make sure, Jim, too bad Chief Dickerson's not here, he would know that. And the intent would be not to get rid of it, just.
Right.
What kind of vehicle do we need for the fly effort? You said fly car in Mapleton?
It'd be any kind of vehicle that holds some medical equipment, so probably, being up in the hills like that, an SUV, four-wheel drive would be nice.
So not a surplus ambulance or something, I mean.
Probably not, they wouldn't be doing transports.
Right,
They would just be there until the ambulance showed up.
right.
So, yeah, it could be the Durango. I don't know how reliable that would be up there, but it certainly could be.
Well, I know you're saying there was mainly transmission issues at this point.
Then I can tell, yes.
And I'm probably overstepping here because I'm talking about Western Lane ambulance, but I was just curious as to whether, with this fly car, whether, since it's benefiting Mapleton, whether there's any input from them financially in terms of helping pay for this.
I haven't raised it with them at all. They do pay property taxes. I would be willing to bet they don't have a lot of funds to help support that. We certainly ask.
What's the cost? The new vehicle?
It was, I'm asking for 50,000, it's less than that. Completely, you were yours. Yeah.
It was like 33,000, the ambulance was another 15 to have everything on paper for it. But we're actually adding a radio to our vehicle, there just to use some of the other equipment around. So I would imagine probably around the 45 range.
For this one, for yours. Yeah. It was 36.5 for the actual vehicle. Radios that we were just taking from an older vehicle, and then lighting, I think, was 7,000.
Yeah, the radios are roughly $5,000 per unit, so that would be the biggest expense to this. Probably about $10,000 on top of it with the issue of uplift.
So we have a 2009, did we acquire that in 2009?
I believe so.
Okay, so it's 10 years old.
And you're saying, so there's the Crown Vic, which we would just
Or the
sell.
slower, really look closer which one we could surplus.
Okay. I'm just wondering, are there any, there were how many vehicles altogether? 3? The Durango, the Crown Vic, and
There's a Ford Explorer.
Ford Explorer. I mean,
Those are, I've been told those are at the bottom of the list as far as
is
needs.
there any value if we were selling for?
We would try and surplus them.
I'm just wondering if we sold the other two and used that money to fix the transmission in the Durango and use that as a fly car with a little extra, I don't know.
Possibly good. Yeah.
The flight car, the ops vehicle that I'm currently in has 160,000 miles in it, and it's already outfitted to actually do first response as well. The idea was to move it into a secondary dunes vehicle, but we really don't have the ATV accidents that we have had historically. And plus, when the staff were to come back into to do their shifts, the vehicle would be there. It's really just taking them home at night and being available in that area during those 48-hour windows. So I mean, we really haven't put an exorbitant amount of thought into the fly car. Of like, okay, how does this really work? But I think realistically, Ops 2 vehicle could plug right into it, and then we start, sharing other resources that we may need. We could use the Ford Explorer down here for the MIH or whatever. It's just brainstorming on top of our heads.
So who's driving the Ford Explorer?
It's just a extra staff vehicle.
Okay, so the Durango, if it was used as a fly car, would it stay in Mapleton?
Potentially.
It's not a commuter car though, right? So it would stay in Mapleton, we'd have to maintain it up there, find a place to park it, so it's ready for emergency response, right? So does that mean we'd have to garage it up there somewhere?
Well, ideally, we're looking at the staff that, we have 4 staff that live up there. So David Rossi, George Wagner, part-timer as well. Dave Howard, Zach. So ideally what we're looking at is that they would take the vehicle home with them, like kind of how I do. So when they're off duty, if some MVA happened anywhere in the area, they would actually go as first response.
Okay, but if they're on duty and the vehicle's down here, that doesn't help us in Mapleton with some, I mean,
They would rotate out.
they rotate it so they keep the vehicle up there as long as somebody was on days off up there?
Yeah, because the way the shifts are, you would have one person going off duty as he's coming in, the
Right.
other person can take that vehicle.
So Zach would come in and have him, and Abby would take it out.
Right, again, we haven't put an exorbitant amount into it.
Yeah.
And there's no commitment on their part, they have to staff it or certain.
Right, I understand. I understand.
So would the payroll for the fly car come out of Western Ambulance, I'm guessing?
If they were to
So
respond.
if we use a Durango, there has to be a transfer of assets from one company to the other, compensation possibly. I mean, there's,
Well, but Matt already has a car that can be.
if Western Ambulance does, but if we use the Durango, there has to be a transfer of assets from the fire department to the ambulance
I
district.
mean, the medicated down.
I mean, just things to think about. Yeah.
The medicated down unit is reserve medic unit and is for peak hours.
But it belongs to Western. Correct. So, now there's history of, they could use, I mean, we have, the fire department has a medic unit, Western Lane medic unit out of the med. So there would be history that would say that you can.
Well, I think, do we have any useful life expectation for that car? I mean, do we expect it to last 10 years or 20 years or?
The Durango,
Yeah,
typically a staff vehicle, you're looking at 10 to 12 years.
I see. Okay. So if the board's decided to do this, are we talking about, since it's the authority, that we're each paying for half the vehicle? Is that the assumption?
That would be a decision that would have to be made. And I could certainly bring that up to the IGA committee too, to talk about that.
Right. I think that might be the next best step. You know, give it to the IGA committee to resolve these other issues like what Director Murphy brought up and see where we go from there.
It's not that we want to purchase that as the first sort of capital purchase of the new.
Right.
I think we've got, we're trying to schedule an IGA committee meeting for next week. So I'll bring it up then.
Curious, Matt, would they have full meds on that fly car when it was parked? I mean, would it be an ALS fly car, or just strictly BLS?
Except for
No
public
drugs?
narcotics, because it's a
Okay.
different piece, but we would probably, that's where we cut it off of. So first line cardiac medications and.
Got it.
And there's
And anything that's stored in there, is it in like a Knox med box where it's, you know, coded, so secured,
they're just in kits.
just kits? Okay.
That's, I mean, like my vehicle is locked when I'm not in the vehicle, it's locked all the time. But I mean, and it's just first line, what I have right now currently, my vehicle is literally just for first line cardiac.
Got it. Yeah.
But we would look at expanding that pharmaceutical list because of the need.
Right.
Yeah, probably no controlled substances or anything.
You know, just,
I guess I need to know what's the difference between our QRT teams that we have there and having the flight car.
So we're talking about two different districts, and I'm not saying this to pull any district out, but this is the reality of volunteerism nationwide as dwindling down. One department is struggling to get any response, where there's multiple calls that we've been up there that we haven't had any first
No
response.
QRTs.
Correct. Whereas another district, you know, they have a more plentiful resource of personnel that they're actually making a lot of calls.
It'd be different, BLS versus ALS, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So QRT would be a BLS response.
Yeah, all QRTs per Dr. Daniels is at a basic level. He doesn't want any advanced. Now, we have resources already living in the area. It's easy to just plug and play using the vehicle to go that direction. In fact, a lot of times they used to respond to the fire department and have things to change with them. So they would just respond, you know, essentially gives seat size of how many patients under that accident, at least in all time, which is a great asset. And that's what we're trying to re-institute, just by a different direction.
And like Matt was saying, we haven't put a whole lot of thought in this. We still have to sit down. How much do we think it would cost? Is it feasible? You know, are the employees willing to put it in their driveway or a vehicle in their garage? How often do they think they would be available?
And also their liability and their insurance.
Yeah.
Homeowners insurance and stuff to have that vehicle in their garage.
That's a good question. I don't know, I've never talked to my homeowners insurance company about having a vehicle. But-
I did in my former profession because I had to take a vehicle home. As long as it's in the driveway, it's not parked on the public street. That was the rule.
Okay.
And the insurance company didn't have a problem with it.
Makes sense. That's all I have for my report.
Okay. You want to come to the fire and ops report and all too? Before we get to that?
So this is a good time to bring this up. Chief Dickerson and I approached Chief Schick earlier today about looking at ways of doing things better and more efficiently. And one of the things that we came up to is actually just blending our operations reports, because a lot of the data is the same data. And so essentially, instead of having, you know, my report, his report, that you would look at, it's 30 pages of report, but it'd be all one condensed thing, so we wouldn't have to go back and forth like the way we're doing it now. And because our job responsibilities sometimes pull us away from these meetings, one of us can always just report off on the ops report as well. So that was something we wanted to bring to your attention, is tonight's a perfect example of that scenario. If that's something that you guys would like us to do, we can start merging the ops reports together and move forward with it and just report off when we're here.
I think it makes great sense.
Yeah.
We're both learning
Definitely.
about each other's operations more and more anyways. We sit in these meetings. It's a great way to do it.
Perfect, and effectively we'll start that September 26th. And
How
we'll,
about tonight?
well, yeah, effectively we're going to start tonight, so I'm going to apologize in advance. I didn't have a lot of time to review the fire side, but my side I got down pretty
And you
good.
should say that, you know, Chief Dickerson got called out just before the meeting for a structure fire north of here. So,
Yeah, outside our district.
right.
Yeah.
Outside of our,
Was it mutual aid?
Snowman's Lake,
Just no man, okay.
there's no really governing body of fire out there.
CODM was going out there as well, which I think would happen.
They're putting out the forest fire next to the structure that will be headed our direction.
So Chief Dickerson's operations report for August 2019, the fire department responded to 15 fires, and it's not a breakdown of whether structure, wildland, or dumpster fires. Rescue and EMS calls was 52, service calls 3, hit 10, 16, 2 false alarms, and then their overlapping calls are 20 with triples included. And that a lot of those overlapping calls are usually rescue and emergency medical services. Total call volumes for July 19 is 88. Total call volume for 2019 is 474. So again, when we're looking forward to next month and doing the report, this would actually be all in one graph and broke down, so it would be easier and cleaner to see. If you guys have other data you'd like to see, then let us know. We'll add it as we're continuing with this adventure. You know, we'll do these reports together. Average response time was 7 minutes and 6 seconds. And actually 7.4 in 2019.
what's a good intent? As versus a bad intent?
Good intent is like a public service going out, could be replacing smoke alarm batteries and stuff in the community service basis.
Yeah, these are NFIRS categories. They break it down.
What does good intent mean?
Okay, I'd have to get my NFIRS list out. Things like, say, smoke report that turned out to be a barbecue in the backyard. I mean, there was no fire. We got called out, and there was an intent that we would respond to this emergency, and it's just somebody was barbecuing in the backyard.
Replacing a battery in a smoke alarm that went off, and the people called. That's the intent. It wasn't an emergency, but the department took action.
Director Webb just mentioned a cat in a tree.
Yeah.
It's definitely a good thing.
Yeah, true.
It's a cat out.
I like that. I like that.
Training currently is under restructuring. There's not being conducted for the training moving forward in operations. I'm sure we're all aware of that, so we'll do that one there. DPSST flag trainer brought in for a firefighter 2 academy. We had that flag class, which was flammable liquids, about 2-3 weeks ago. And really good participation with it. Prevention is always busy. There's a report on that if you have any questions. I can muddle through it.
I've got a question on the prevention one. Well, I'm not trying to pin you down. I'm just curious. On the fire investigation where it says completed, will they ever put in there whether it was accidental, arson, or undetermined? Are we keeping track of that through first?
It's in the report. I'd have to see where it's
Oh,
actually.
okay.
It probably should be. I think the state would expect that.
Yeah, I hope so. So for data, if they ever came to us and said, "Hey, what do you guys have?" You can roll it out and say, "Well, we had 25 fires that were 15 of them were incendiary and the rest were accidental."
We had a state fire marshal involved in anything that we thought was arson.
Good. Thank you. Sorry. I turned it down.
Okay. Any other questions on fire prevention?
No, sir.
I'll move on now to staff reports for Andy Gray prepared it. And it just shows that all the apparatus and equipment, buildings that have been serviced over the last month, and what the crew responses during day shift. And then the final one, I believe, in part of the report is the community support team. And I'll touch a little bit more on this as well when I get to my report. Any other questions? Sorry for being vague. I just didn't have a lot of time for it.
Oh, this is good.
Matt, do you want to go over a question on the community support team now, or are you going to go this?
I'm going to touch on a little bit more on our side as well, because there's some more information that's really important, I think, to relay the importance of the program. So, switching gears to the EMS world, total call volume, we had an increase pretty significant from last year to this year. But we ran 374 total calls. But again, our no patients are still lingering behind. And I don't know why we're running more no patient calls this year than we have in any other year. But the other part that I wanted just to point out are specialty care transports. We're at 14 compared to last year. And those are the really good ones that we can capital, especially in revenues. And we almost get pretty much matching money for Medicare, especially when our demographics rely so heavily on it. And then I think year to date, we're at 71 specialty care transports, which is 20 higher than last year. So that training that we put into the districts is really starting to pay off, that we can capture that in our building department because we have the training, we can capture it as well. MIH was 45 and greater than last year. Again, just moving forward to next month, there'll be a loss because of her call line. She's on a 2-week vacation. There's something about loss we have to require in that time also. She's actually in Iceland trekking around.
She's not going to buy it.
Huh?
She's not going to buy it.
What's in
That's
MIH?
Why not?
Community paramedic.
Oh, community.
Yeah.
Okay.
Technically, community paramedics trademark, so we try to play by the right rules that will integrate healthcare is that. Any questions on the call items?
So there wasn't a chance to move Chris back into the position while she was gone?
We looked at it. Actually, I like what we're doing because we're supplementing with other staff. Be a little more diverse. 2 paramedics that went out and seen patients. I went out and seen a patient as well. So we haven't completely dropped off the grid for these last 2 weeks. We're still seeing the friendly faces that we go out to help prevent them from going into the emergency departments and rebids. But as for like the palliative care that we do, that has dropped off.
Okay.
Updated GMT, touched on that earlier. Is there any further questions? It's anticipated we should know by the end of September exactly the final dollar amount.
Yes, we've seen our revenues and expenses, they may have actually crossed at this point. I hope we can be aggressive in pushing with the state on expanding GEMT to the full
Managed care.
managed care group. And then there's that other program, the 3T. Yeah, ET3. Is there any possibility of, what that would do is allow us to get paid for calls that we don't transport to the hospital, which is a large percentage of our, I guess probably 40–50% of our volume maybe.
Close to that.
Yeah, so I don't know if there was some talk about being able to pull something together or a proposal within Lane County.
We're still discussing it. The application period hasn't opened yet for that program. It's going to be a pilot program, so we're hoping that we can
Well,
get
you're good at
involved.
pilot programs.
We've done a lot of, yeah. Just any other revenue source that makes sense. I think both these you and Dave can really help us.
We're at the bottom of what they're looking for as far as call volume for a pilot program. That's why I think if we can team up with another agency combined.
Can we use our retired pilot for the pilot program?
Yeah, so I don't think they've even set a date for when they're going to roll out the application. We're watching it really closely.
Right.
No other questions?
The staffing update at PHH. So we're filling some shifts there. Are those guys employees of PHH when that happens? So,
No, and for clarification, apologies, what I had said last board meeting was taken out of context and it caused kind of a mess that we had to take care of Chief and I. And it was no meaning that we're saying that they're understaffed. It is Peace Harbor Hospital, and like any other hospital throughout the nation, goes through these influxes.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what essentially is, it drives our overtime costs up when they are short-staffed. It's no different if they were doing a remodeling to their whole power supply and we had to upgrade our staffing for that week.
right.
And things happen like this, and it's unfortunate that it was
Right.
taken the context it was. But back to the point, yes, they have had better staffing models that they're projecting for September, but not completely filling their vacancies. That's from my understanding. I've been working close with the nurse director over Peace Harbor Hospital and the CEO there, Jason Hawkins.
Okay.
So there is, the September schedule is already released. I cut back on some of the overtime, it's different, and we're still working through that.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
So Matt, I have I guess a question for the board, but maybe something for you to consider as you combine these reports. And I was going to ask the boards, I guess, starting on page 76, we put in all the call summary report information, and you summarized that already. Does anybody read that? It's many pages of stuff that
I
kind of,
absolutely can remove anything that you'd like. I just put it there for documentation to validate.
I think we trust you by now, so.
That's good.
Does anybody want to see that data? I guess that would be the question.
One thing that might be helpful if you're going to combine the reports together, it would be nice to know how many calls involve staff from both places.
I can use it up.
Yeah, that'd be a nice example of working as one team and where there's a combined response.
Yeah.
So,
That's good. That'd be a
Well-
good measure.
Western Ambulance is on it, which trend, you've heard me talk about that several, over
Right.
months, years actually. And we're currently in the process of getting sites of other fire folded underneath the Western Lane's account. And so that anytime we do any patient care reporting, it'll actually be on both districts now. And so if there's a fire, and this goes back to the fire ordinance that was created a couple of years ago, capturing revenue on an MBC or something that was out of the area clientele, then we actually can start capturing that with times, CAD times, and then sending it up to system design billing, capturing whatever revenue we can out of the insurance companies. So that's in process. Chief signed the contract a couple days ago. So next 90 days we'll be implementing it with the fire side. Western Lane is really solid already. I've been underneath that that software for 2 years. So it'll be a learning curve on getting the fire up to it, but as soon as we get there, that data is going to be golden for what you're after.
Okay.
I think what Larry's wanting will be key when we go out for our renew our levy. You know, as we know, if the taxpayers don't renew that levy, we're in serious trouble, might have a private ambulance company in here. And that would be one thing we could show them they'll be losing if something like that happens.
The other thing I'd like to ask is, how are we doing with dispatch? Is that improving? Status quo?
We continue to meet with them to improve the training, to improve our requests. We're in the process of upgrading our capital hardware stuff, our repeaters. We have a PSAP meeting that will be scheduled when we get those final quotes in to go over it. So we continue to work in a direction. We are still working through it.
Okay. Well, in terms of reporting to the boards, it'd be good to know how many exceptions to expected protocols we have in a month. Because it's hard for us to quantify how well our dispatch is working for us. So if you had 100 calls and you had 2 incidents where it didn't work well, that's, you know, we need to know that kind of data.
And I've been talking to the crews and just to get that information.
Right.
Well, it was important that they let us know.
Right.
So we can address them, but also document.
Right.
And we're working with them. When things are identified, we try to correct it right away. A lot of it is the integration between softwares that we've been dealing with, and it's not fair really for the dispatch until we get through that integration hiccups. And
I agree.
And I think we'll really understand where we're at with things.
Okay. Very good.
Capital equipment, we purchased the video laryngoscopies through the capital that we budgeted. No sooner did we get those first 2 into service, we had a catastrophic failure on one of them, so we ended up having to purchase a 3rd one. So that's what you'll see that in the upcoming bills. Essentially, instead of 18,000, it'll be around 27,000 total.
Well, you're saying one of the old ones failed,
Yeah.
not one of the new ones.
No.
Okay, all right.
That would never be a caveat. No, one of our old ones just got to the end of life. The final part of our building remodel update is now our staff bathroom that's being remodeled, the shower, so we can actually have an ADA shower in our building, because we will hire people that have disabilities potentially down the line. Is in progress right now, and projected to be done in about 2 weeks, and then we can work on putting that other shower in that we've discussed, and then we'll be done with that remodel project. The unfortunate part of this is we didn't capture this in last year's budget to move it over into this year, so that's something that we'll have to address towards the end of it when Dina's aware of it as well.
So we just did budget for that capital expenditure this year.
We budgeted last year.
Carried over.
Yeah, we didn't carry it
Your
over.
budget, okay, gotcha.
But we have enough, and probably will have enough in contingency probably to cover it as well. It's not projected to be over $20,000 expense. And that will wrap up the big remodel project that we've been working on over the last year and a half. Mobile integrated healthcare, we touched on. Any other questions on that? Training report. Training has been doing actually a really good job. He's doing a different focus on actually critical care protocols and task books. So now all of our critical care trained people are going backwards and actually doing the task books to verify, yeah, they're really good and they know what they're doing. And it's been so good that Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue heard about what we're doing, and we've had phone calls about, hey, what's this program? TVFR is kind of the standard in the fire industry, EMS up in the metropolis area. So it's kind of wow, for our little program is making some waves in the critical care area. It's great. It's cool. Fleet's going good. Nothing to report on that. Wear and tear maintenance, through oil filter, and then finally the community service support team. Busy, but there was 2 significant events that happened over the last month. One was an unfortunate incident up in Swiss on Deadwood where a firefighter board member was killed, and CST team was instrumental in that situation, de-escalating and helping provide. And then the following Tuesday, Lori and myself went back up there as another debrief to talk with them to see how they're doing, anything that we can do as little brothers and big brothers play together. And it's just turning out to be an extremely valuable program to both the region, period. On the way back from that incident, there was another significant incident where somebody died, and there was some pretty significant family dynamics with it. And we literally just went from one bad incident, Lori was with me, we went out to the other one, and again, she's an amazing program, and we're moving greatly forward with it. And also, we're still waiting on the final word about Sarson Valley Fire being the fiduciary agent with the mobile mental health component that we're implementing. As far as I know, the funds are supposed to be released pretty soon, and we'll start really moving that forward in the region as well. Again, back to a pilot program.
I want to compliment Lori too. I was working with a family that had a suicide, and they were there right away. And it was really a big help for this family that was going through some difficult times. So it was very, very helpful.
Yeah, no, actually, it was the question I was going to ask you too, Matt, was about is the suicide survivor support group for is it for Sisseton Valley's district or is it for Missouri County? So it'll reach up to Maple upriver, and so we've had some.
And that's our peer support too.
Pardon?
We also, it's part of our peer support.
Okay. And when did this program start?
CST?
The suicide survivors.
Just recently.
90 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because boy, we've had some horrific events up in Mapleton, for instance. This would have been really great for a few years ago. So congrats on getting that going. It's great.
And the final thing, the comments or questions is just wondering, we didn't have a section for recognition, so I just added it at the end of my report. We had a really good call where McKinsey, our part-time medic, and our other full-time medic, Aaron Stefanik, were on a scene of active heart attack, recognized it, diverted, called in to our hospital here, said this is what we have, requested a divert to Bay Area Hospital. They went down to Bay Area Hospital, the patient was discharged with no symptoms the next day. So they actually called this this is actually Riverbend. There was a different one, this is actually Riverbend. And they try to do a monthly recognition to how the process is, and they recognized us at Sacred Heart as a part of the team award. So it's a good recognition all the way around.
Did they use the voice awareness?
Yeah.
So Matt, who does this award come from? This award?
The STEMI award?
Yeah.
It came from Sacred Heart Riverbend Cardiology.
Okay.
And we got confused. We actually had another one really great outcome that was like last week.
And that went to be.
That one was great. Any questions, comments, concerns on any of the reports? As we look forward, we'll look at condensing it so these reports aren't as long as well. And you can email Chief Dickerson or I any other suggestions you'd like to see or removed. And thank you, because I don't like all the reports. They're not fun to pull. I love the fact that we're doing this.
To make it less.
In that case, we'd like to see.
With Dina's reports, you have it there. There's only one item that she really wanted me to bring up. For Western Lake concerning Life Med Fund. So it looks like Life Med was established as a separate fund in 2017. Having a separate fund means there's additional accounting processes that you have to go through. And so the question is, do we need to maintain it as a separate fund? Director Webb and Kathy and Nina and I sat down and discussed it. We're okay either way. However the board would like to see it as maintaining it as a fund, or if we just move it right into the general fund. Maintain it as a fund, you certainly could have not easier access, but Certain things you can't use taxpayer funds. This would not be taxpayer funds. Our patient fees are not taxpayer funds. So that's also a revenue source that you can separate from being taxpayer funds. And Director Webb, you can certainly put your 2 cents in.
I just asked mechanically, she said there wasn't a whole lot harder on this. I'm aware of Larry's concern to make sure that it's as revenue neutral as possible. And I think we could accomplish that and still leave it as a separate fund. Personally, I feel the separate fund allows us a little bit more flexibility if we have to make expenditures outside of our normal budget. The lifetime budget allows us to do that and have transparency.
I think this will be something we'll have to decide as a board, because I feel differently. I think that we should change it from being a fund to just being a line item, because we have not yet as a district managed this individual, very tiny P&L properly. My concern is twofold. One, that it show a true profit and loss statement, and part of that profit and loss statement is the contractual allowances we give people for their LifeMed subscription. We've never yet shown that in this financial. And the second would be, I simply want the staff to have less to do and less to reconcile. So if we want, I noticed that her suggestion is that we maintain it this way during this budget cycle, but then maybe next year we change it to a line item and have something where we can more accurately see whether or not we're covering our expenses and our contractual allowances. Right now, we can't see that.
Yeah, we really did that data today. We do lose money with LifeMed.
Yeah, and that's okay, but we need to know how much we're losing. And
actually, that data is in there.
Yeah, I understand.
But, yeah, you have to pick it out.
But like we went 3 years before we transferred money out of there, so it's been kind of a mess.
That was an error.
Yeah. So it's something we'll have to decide as a board.
Sure. I think the idea was to maybe pick it up during the budget process, so we change it for the next budget year.
Okay.
Consider it. I still think it's a mistake to abolish it. I think it offers some benefit, some strong benefit legally. I think that the mechanics for measuring whether it's profitable or not is rather simple. I don't think the separation of the funds or combining it, I actually think it's worse if you combine it and bury it within the general fund budget, because then you really don't see it as a separate entity supplementing anything. Personally, I don't have any issues at all in managing between several funds. It's not that complicated.
Mr. Chairman, John, I think a couple months before we start the budget process, we ought to have a workshop just on that, so we're ready to go when the budget hits, so we don't waste the whole budget committee's time, us trying to decide what we're going to do.
Okay, so maybe we could have staff prepare a presentation before we get to that point.
Yeah, good idea.
Okay, good idea. Thank you. Moving on the Wi-Fi, so the Wi-Fi situation seems good. I mean, everybody have trouble?
Yeah, now when I don't need it anymore.
It should get better. It will get better. They tune things up and move things around, but yeah, the hardware we were using was way past end of life and could not be upgraded, so we anticipate it getting better.
So it says something about it'll continue to be monitored and upgraded. Is that through our LCOG contract?
I think it was a different company, wasn't it?
So if you,
Costco? Yeah, that's a different company.
Yeah, it's a separate.
is it different?
Elcon doesn't supply us.
Is it Ambient?
Ambient or IT
Ambient.
support, but it's a different.
On the course there, it says ambient IT services.
Yes.
Okay. Great. Well, thanks for doing that too.
That's it for staff reports.
Okay. So we have time for director comments.
Any comments, thoughts, contributions, suggestions?
I have one comment. Since we know SDAO is coming up in February, we know it's in Seaside, maybe staff should reach out and find us some accommodations and
I'll be good at that.
Oh, good. Great job, Mary.
Thanks, Mary.
Mary's the one who booked the last one in Seaside. She did a great job.
You did a great job.
Good, yeah, thank you. Any other thoughts or comments from directors? Okay, next meeting is scheduled for September 26th. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second.
Wow. All in favor? We don't have to take a roll call. vote.
Yeah.
Is that all
I'll
right?
make a motion to stay an hour more.
All those in favor? All those opposed?
All right, we are